Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining in on this webinar session titled Cybersecurity in our Current World of Remote Work. My name is Gift. I'm a Customer Excellence Strategist, and I'll be your anchor for today. Now, before we proceed, here are some housekeeping rules to guide our activities during this session. First, the presentation is being recorded and videos will be made available on demand. Next, all attendees are muted and your videos are off, so kindly provide all questions, comments, or concerns in the chat window, and we'll be providing responses to each and every one of them. So also take note that there are free Sophos licenses to be won during the course of this meeting, so kindly stay tuned. Now we have our presenters who are cybersecurity professionals. We have Sandra, Victor, and Akin Fusika, and they will be speaking to us on cybersecurity in our current work environment. And on today's agenda, we'll be going through 8 key segments. We'll start off with a brief introduction to Reliance Infosystems. Then we'll be looking into the evolution of security, how ransomware works, endpoint security, perimeter security, security of the new perimeter, security management, and lastly, we'll take on a question and answer segment. So to begin for today, I would like to briefly introduce Reliance Infosystems. Now, we are a leading ICT organization headquartered in Lagos with physical and digital footprints around the world, and we focus on empowering organizations like yours to harness technology in order to achieve their business goals, create unique value propositions, and attain matchless competitive positioning. So here at Reliance Infosystems, we operate by our success outcome philosophy, which basically explains the dynamics of our relationship with customers. Now, the fundamentals of our business is built around winning with customers. And for this reason, we see our relationship with them as a partnership because we go beyond providing the best digital solutions to also provide much needed guidance at each step of the way until digital transformation is attained. Now, over the years, we have attained numerous gold competencies and advanced specializations. We currently have advanced specializations in Windows Server and SQL Server migration to Microsoft Azure, adoption and change management, modernization of web applications to Microsoft Azure, meeting rooms and calling for Microsoft Teams, and low-code app development. Also, we have been recognized with several awards. On 3 occasions, we have bagged the Microsoft Country Partner of the Year Award, and we also won the Sophos Partner of the Year Award in 2021, and that's in addition to a large portfolio of honors that we have, speaking to the effectiveness of our capabilities and to the fact that Reliance Infosystems is indeed an industry leader. For our footprints, we are physically located in Nigeria, Ghana, Botswana, Kenya, Pakistan, UAE, and the United Kingdom, with digital footprints in about 22 countries in Africa and the Middle East. Now we'll be looking at our success pillars, which are 3 pillars that defines our mode of operation here at Reliance Infosystems. Now these pillars include business transformation, operational excellence, and protection assurance. For business transformation, we assist businesses to transform digitally, lower costs, and maximize productivity by introducing them to leading-edge cloud innovations. Now, under this pillar, we offer identity and access management, cloud hosting solutions, business productivity platforms, and a list of advanced services. For operational excellence, which is the second pillar, we provide platform-agnostic technologies, empowering our customers to revamp their operations, business offerings, and value propositions. Under the second pillar, we provide modern ERP solutions, customer engagement, data platforms, robotic process automation, and a list of modernized solutions as well. For protection assurance, which is the third pillar, we render what we refer to as rest of mind as a service, which simply implies that utilizing the best digital security products, we handle all cybersecurity concerns for our customers, empowering them to focus solely on their productivity and the distribution of their products and services. So under this last pillar, we offer gateway protection, vulnerability assessment, endpoint protection, advanced threat protection, and a list of ultra-modern cybersecurity solutions. So that's a quick overview of Reliance Infosystems and basically the scope of our operations. Right now, we'll be moving into what we have for today, which is on cybersecurity. Now, we know that remote work offers numerous advantages from increased flexibilities to improved performance. However, we also know that this new work condition has created a lot of digital security gaps and major cybersecurity challenges for organizations worldwide. So during the course of this session, we'll be looking into those challenges, various predisposing factors that expose businesses to attacks, as well as techniques, tools, and practices to effectively secure the remote work environment. At this moment, we'll be moving into the next segment, which is on the evolution of security. And I'll be handing over to my colleague, Mr. Akinfusika, who'll be taking us through this section. So Akinfusika, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Gift. Okay, so in this section, we'll be talking about the evolution of security in the new world of work. The world has changed. As we all know, workers are remote, and there are really three main factors that are driving the creation of the any organization. The first is the growth in remote work. Likely many of you, quite a number of us are attending this from home. Remote working was already a trend before COVID-19, although at differing levels across the globe. In the US, we had 7% working from home pre-COVID. In Europe, we had, in general, it was around 10%, with home workers making up 20% of the workforce in Denmark, Sweden, and the Netherlands. In Australia, around about a third of the country's working population was regularly working from home by 2019. In the UK, the number of home workers grew by 74% in a decade. Now, of course, the pandemic greatly accelerated the trend. By May 2020, 62% of employed Americans currently working from working from home, a huge jump. And on the Sophos side, we've seen a 10% increase in the number of people using our Sophos VPN Connect client since March 2020. And remote working is set to continue once COVID is behind us. Lots of big companies, Microsoft, Twitter, Salesforce, have already publicly stated that employees can continue to work from home after the pandemic. Gartner found that 4% of companies expect some employees to work remotely post-COVID, and 43% of US full-time workers say they would like to work remotely even after COVID. Remote working may be better for staff and better for companies. Companies save money as they don't need to pay for office buildings and heating and power and all that, and they can bring in people wherever they are based. Employees also save money as they don't need to commute, and they get hours back in the day through eliminating travel time. And many people say they are more productive when they work from home. So remote working, the world has changed, cloud use has soared. It's not the only factor driving the change, remote working. The increased use of the cloud is also a major factor. And when I say cloud, I mean both using cloud-based applications like Jira and Wiki, and creating cloud infrastructure with providers including AWS, Azure, and the Google Cloud Platform. The pandemic accelerated the use of an existing trend, although the use of the cloud was already soaring before 2020, but it grew yet further during the pandemic. For example, AWS reported a significant increase in the use of AWS storage as organizations looked to reduce costs and increase agility, and people found new ways of doing things. For many in the education sector, there was a switch from in-classroom learning to cloud-based digital learning management systems like Blackboard, Century Tech, ClassDojo, and Google Classroom. This trend is set to continue because by 2023, we're expecting that more than 40% of the world's data will be stored in hyperscale or cloud-like data centers. The third big change, like I mentioned earlier, there are three big changes. So the third one now is the security and driving the security environment is cyber attacks, which too have continued to evolve. Attackers are constantly working on their tactics. So while there's increased protection, there's also increased attacks because the attackers would also always try to breach this protected infrastructure. The example here is of a Ryuk ransomware attack. Ryuk is a particularly nasty form of ransomware that has caused havoc for its victims. As you can see, the attackers walk through multiple stages in the attack kill chain. So they escalate privileges, they move around the network, they delete backups, disable security protection before deploying the actual ransomware. The goal is to remove all your defenses so they can increase the chance you pay up. If they've breached your entire infrastructure, you'd want to pay. You'd not want to set up the whole thing anymore because of the cost of that and the stress and the manpower and the man hours that would take. So ransomware like Ryuk is a very real threat. In an independent survey by Vancing Bond, 5,000 IT managers of 5,000 IT managers, it was revealed that over half, that's about 51%, were hit by ransomware, and that the cyber criminals succeeded in encrypting data in nearly 3/4 of the attack. That's a lot. The average cost to the organization to rectify the impact of the most recent ransomware attack, considering downtime, people time, like I mentioned earlier, device cost, network cost, lost opportunity, ransom paid, is $761,106 US. The same survey also revealed that 70% of the organizations using the public cloud experienced a cloud security incident in the last 12 months. So 51% of respondents, a survey was done by Sophos, and 51% of respondents revealed that they were hit by ransomware in the last year. Half of the IT managers surveyed, and in 73% of those incidents, attackers succeeded in encrypting data. Furthermore, the average, like I mentioned earlier, global cost to remediate these attacks was an eye-watering $761,000. It is clear that ransomware isn't going anywhere anytime soon. It's now a business. One of the most effective methods to protect against ransomware attacks is with a properly configured endpoint protection solution. In this webinar, we'll cover how ransomware attack works, how they can be stopped, best practices for configuring your endpoint solution for the strongest protection possible. So before we get into the detail, let's first take a look at how ransomware attacks are deployed. In recent years, ransomware attacks have trended. They have come in different ways, from brute force, large-scale attacks, to focused, planned, and manually executed attacks that are much harder to detect and block. Let's now take a look at how different ransomware attacks happen and how ransomware operates and what your organization should be doing to minimize its vulnerability to an attack. So we have the typical targeted ransomware attack. These are very manual. They focus on one victim at a time and often demand very high ransom fees. Attackers gain access to the network and move laterally, identifying high-value systems in the process. Attempting to impact as many systems at once, these attacks are often launched at the worst possible times for defenders: nights, weekends, and holidays, when your IT personnel, your security personnel are not at the office, or should I say protecting, actively searching and all that. So they also leverage several attack techniques in order to sidestep layered protection features, making them particularly effective. So a typical ransomware attack looks a little like this. They gain entry via, it could be the remote file sharing management features such as remote desktop protocol, malware such as emotet, trickbots, and qbots. Then they escalate privileges until they get administrator access. So they exploit system vulnerabilities to gain privilege levels that let them bypass security software. Then, thirdly, they attempt to disable or bypass security if they can, using highly tailored files. Failing this, they will attempt to breach the security management console and disable security systems. Then, they deploy ransomware to encrypt the victim's files. They use network and host vulnerabilities or basic file sharing protocols to compromise other systems on the network. They also use tools that companies already use in their networks, such as PSExec and PowerShell. Then, once they've encrypted the files, they leave a ransom note. So this is where they'll put how you contact them or how you pay the money and all that, so that the files can be decrypted. Then they wait for the contacts, wait for the victim to contact them via email or a dark web website. So the consequences for falling victim to these attacks can be severe. We can see that $1.4 million is the average global cost if the ransom is paid. These hackers are getting bolder. They are demanding six-figure payments sometimes. Furthermore, the survey revealed that paying the ransom actually doubled the cost of dealing with an attack. So that's how much it costs to deal with this. Another common route for attackers or the hackers to deploy ransomware is via the RDP, that's the remote desktop protocol. In fact, in our survey, 9% of the respondents told us that 9% of successful ransomware attacks where data was encrypted came through RDP. RDP and other desktop sharing tools like your virtual network computing, the VNC, are legitimate and highly useful features that allow your IT administrators to access and manage your organization's systems remotely. Unfortunately, without proper safeguards in place, such tools like open doors for the attackers to come into your network, and they are commonly exploited by these attackers or by targeted ransomware. So when these protocols are not secured properly behind a VPN, or at least restricting with limiting the number of IP addresses that can access the particular server or device or infrastructure, when you don't limit them, they can connect via the attackers can connect via RDP, and the attackers often use brute force hacking tools, which try hundreds of thousands of usernames and password combinations until they're able to find the right one and compromise your network. So today's challenge is securing the Anywhere organization. Now, the challenge for IT teams is that they have to defend against these advanced attacks while also enabling people to work at the same time. So they are doing two jobs. They are defending and providing platforms for people to work. So, and these people may be working from any location. They may be using any device, any operating system, either your Windows, Mac OS, Android, and the likes, and they may be accessing any resources, whether they are SaaS, your software as a service resources, hosted in the cloud, or resources on your on-prem servers. So to enable them and to protect, you need to provide secure connections to the resources, both when the users are remote and also when they're in the office. You also need to secure the computers, the phones, and the tablets the users are using. You need to secure the data and the workloads that these users are trying to access or want to access. And you need to ensure your IT team can manage all this from wherever they are working and without adding a significant number to their workload. The good news, well, is that we have a product that can help you, that can enable your IT administrators to achieve all this. And with Sophos, we can help you achieve that. Let's take a look at how. So let's start by looking at how to enable people work from any location with secure connectivity, designed for 2022 and beyond. We have the Secure Access VPN. The vast majority of remote workers right now are connecting to their organization, to their main branches and the cloud resources via the VPNs. Once the connection is established, they can move around the network, access resources in the cloud, and also connect to the data center. Well, to secure that, we have the Sophos Firewall VPN. At Sophos, we have a long history of enabling secure remote working on networks like this, like I meant, well, the VPN with Sophos XG, the Sophos XG Firewall. In fact, we have two options for remote connectivity. The first is Sophos Connect, a free easy to use VPN clients that you can run on your devices. It's easy to deploy and configure. It gives your remote users secure access to resources on the corporate network or public cloud from Windows and macOS devices. And did I mention it's free? Yeah. Unlike most competing offers where you have to pay and all that. So it's also very popular. And we currently have over 1.4 million active clients. So it's tried and tested. You're not going to be testing out in. So the second option is SD-RED, short for Software Defined Remote Ethernet Device. It's a simple plug and play remote Ethernet device that connects branch offices, remote sites, and individuals to the main office, the main network, whether it's physical or it's in the cloud. It's the ultimate in small home office protection with always on dedicated or split VPN, split tunnel VPN that's easy to deploy and manage with a variety of flexible options. It's also very portable, the size of maybe your average box of chocolates, making it ideal for senior managers and other individuals in your organization who need to be able to access a secure connection at any time and from any location. So now, VPN technology is enabling and has successfully enabled people to connect remotely for many years. Most of us are connecting to our organizations. If we are working from home remotely, we are connecting via a VPN. We probably have a VPN client installed on our devices. And it's been a savior, especially during the lockdown period where most of us couldn't go to our offices. We are stuck home, but we had to work. So it enabled organizations to pivot to secure remote working. However, the VPN was never really designed for this new world where a significant proportion of the workforce is remote. A significant proportion of resources are in the cloud, and where attackers are using advanced techniques that combine human hacking with AI-powered automation to get into our network. So like the huge change in remote access requirements means people are starting to want more than what VPN was designed for. So now we all want enhanced access controls. VPN doesn't check the device before granting access. So once it's configured, it just grants access. It doesn't check, which means that infected or compromised devices can still access our networks. It also doesn't check whether a user is allowed to access that resource. There's no access management checking and all that. We need to also prevent lateral movements. VPN is all or nothing. It's either you have access to the network or you don't. So once you're in through VPN, you can access everything, which means from a security perspective, you've got a single point of failure. When an attacker gets in through your VPN, they can access everything. The same way your workers, when they access VPN, they can access everything. We also need to reduce friction. VPN, while yeah, it's a very nice approach to remote work, is also very complex to set up, and it can be a lot of work. And users have to regularly authenticate for it to work. With more people needing to connect more of the time, this is a growing consideration. And the alternative that ticks all these boxes, like I mentioned earlier, is ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access. Zero Trust Network Access, as the name implies, it trusts nothing. It's based on the principle of zero trust and uses that to provide network access to important applications and data from anywhere. In its most basic form, ZTNA is all about verifying, validating, and then granting after it has verified and validated. So you verify the user, typically with your MFA, then validate the health. It's also able to check the health and compliance of the device, checking it's enrolled, up to date, properly protected, is encryption also enabled, and then it uses that information to make decisions based on policies that you've assigned to determine access and privilege to important networks applications. ZTNA also provides a great alternative to remote access VPN, as it can offer very granular controls over who can access what. So with our Sophos ZTNA, it's cloud delivered, cloud managed network access is solution. It's available. If you're interested in getting onto this, I think you'd speak with your Sophos representative. It provides net protection for any network application hosted on-premise or in the public cloud or any other hosting sites. It covers everything from RDP access to network file shares, applications like Jira, Wiki, source code repositories, support and ticketing apps, and like. It consists of 3 major components: the ZTNA client, which is deployed on the devices. It's easy to deploy. If you're using Intercept X endpoints, you can deploy a single agent for both products, but it can also work with any endpoint solution. So it doesn't, it's not just Sophos. It's transparent and frictionless for end users. It continuously integrates device health and identity, and it will support Windows and Mac, so, and your mobile devices. So Sophos Central, another of the second one is Sophos Central, our cloud-based cybersecurity platform. You manage and control your Sophos ZTNA through Sophos Central. So Sophos Central, you can use it for deployment. You can set granular policy controls over who can access what and under what conditions, and you can also get insightful reporting. So if you're already using Sophos Central to manage any of our next generation products, it means you can manage your ZTNA solution from the same console, everything in one place. That's one of our selling points. The ZTNA gateway, this is the third feature now. This is software or VM based for public cloud and virtual environment deployments on-premise. So it constantly verifies and validates user identity and device health, so to provide secure access to apps and data based on policy, and it's able to share logs and events back to Sophos Central. So you're also able to go and check it out in your Sophos Central portal. So we can see. Now, here again, we have Sophos ZTNA. Now we are showing how access via a VPN. So with ZTNA, remote users no longer need to use a VPN to connect to the cloud or the office network or the traditional connections through the firewall. Instead, all devices, whether in the office or remote, have a ZTNA client on their devices. These clients authenticate the user and communicate the device status and health, like I mentioned earlier. You also have ZTNA gateways in front of your resources. The clients communicate with the ZTNA gateways, which authenticates and authorize access to applications, data, and workloads based on policy and device health. And it's all managed and delivered through the cloud-based Sophos Central platform, a single pane of glass to manage everything. So we can see how you can see how this ZTNA gateway sits in front of every infrastructure. So if there's a problem, for example, a device goes out of compliance, gets an infection, or a user doesn't have permission to access a particular resource, the ZTNA client communicates this to the gateway, and the gateway is able to block this user, is able to say, hey, you don't have access to this particular resource, and it also sends logs, hey, this user, to the admin, this user is trying to access this particular resource. So Sophos ZTNA, delivering the future. We talked about what people want, how people want more stuff from their VPNs, which the VPN technology on its own cannot deliver. So now, Sophos ZTNA is the answer. We're able to enhance access controls, prevent lateral movement, and reduce friction. It enables organizations to apply granular access controls based on the policy and the risk. So only healthy devices and authorized users can access particular resources, like we've been singing over and over again. And it keeps not trusting. So just because a device has accessed a particular resource once, maybe in the last 5 minutes, it doesn't say, oh, okay, yeah, he's good to go. It's able to check, oh, is this device compliant? Is this user, does this user have the rights to this resource and all that, and is able to either allow or block depending on what it finds. So users are only able to access the resources they've been authorized to use, and this also prevents lateral movements across the network. For IT teams, and our administrators and all that, it's much easier to deploy and enroll users than with a VPN. because and it can also be managed centrally through the single pane of glass, which is Sophos Central. It's more transparent for end users too, with a just works type of experience, like it just works. And the connection itself is simple and frictionless compared to your traditional VPN. So now this is what the ZTNA, this is the user portal screen. So one important benefit is that it's simple and transparent. So this is what all the users see when they log into the ZTNA gateway. They can easily see and launch the apps that they are authorized, the ones they have permissions and all that to use and access from this pane of glass. So let's take a quick look at some of the visuals. So we can just see some of the visuals from the Sophos Central and also the ZTNA. So, and now having talked about the Sophos ZTNA, I'll be handing over to my colleague, Sandra. So over to you, Sandra.
Thank you very much, Akinfusika. Good day, everyone. So moving forward, should there be any questions from anyone, please do well to put in your questions on the chat window, and the experts on the call will take every questions and attend to them. So moving forward, we are going to be looking at the central management. So my colleague Akinfusika already talked about the Sophos as a solution, as an endpoint solution, also has a ZTNA solution, also has a firewall solution that enhances security. Because if we're looking at the old way of working, the way we were used to before, everyone works from the office. We sit at the office, and there's a firewall at the perimeter, at the gateway level, showing that before you can have connection to the network, before you can access any resources, you must get authenticated and all of that. But now in the new normal, the new perimeter, we're not looking at a physical firewall box where everyone can sit out and get something that is going to at least serve as a level of protection for the network. Everyone works from any location, anywhere at all in the world, and you get connected to the internet. You still need to get resources from the organization, whether a cloud resources or a resources that is still hosted on premise, of course, which is going to be done through the use of VPN when you want to make such connectivity to the environment if you're not working from a cloud location. Yeah, so for the central management, Sophos is a solution such that for all the products that has been mentioned so far from the beginning of the session, it can all be managed centrally from a single management portal. So the administrator isn't bothered about how to manage and how to walk through all of those administrative consoles one at a time, because you have everything embedded in just one, where you have the endpoint protection, you have the firewall management, you also have the ZTNA and every other things as well on that particular console. So it gives the administrator a very easy way to manage users, manage resources, and manage every of their workload that they have on that particular portal. So that is what the central management does. So on the central management, we can see from the picture here, we have the mobile, the desktop, the server, the Mac, the Windows, the Android, Chromebook, iOS, and the Linux. So basically what this is saying is for every of your devices, you can get them secured across board wherever it is you are. And it could be anything at all you're using. Could be your server, could be your desktop, could be mobile, could be any form of operating system at all, could be a tablet. You're sure that, of course, there's a protection, there's a level of protection to it. And with Sophos, we're guaranteed that even for the known attacks and the unknown attack, even the zero-day attack, of course, we know attackers are very intelligent. There are men behind those things that want to make things work. And at the end of the day, all they're bothered about is getting money or probably making the organization lose its reputation and integrity, which is one thing they focus on. And for Sophos, we're guaranteed that when such solution is in the environment and introduced, it's a cloud solution centrally managed, and the administrator can have access to every devices that are connected to that particular console at any point in time. And the fear of who and what is accessing a particular, let's say, website, for example, the fear is removed because we know that the antivirus, the endpoint solution is good enough to take care of all of those worries and fears. So introducing Intercept X, which is the world-best endpoint protection For Intercept X, we have a lot of feature embedded in it. Like I mentioned earlier, the zero-day attack, of course, which is unknown attack. Then for the foundational, which is the basic, the regular signature based that we are used to, like a lot of attack has been up, and so many antivirus are seen to have been able to combat such attack. But for the ones that are unknown, what happens when you don't have a solution that can actually be that intelligent enough to figure out and to decipher when something is wrong on a particular extension, or let's say a PowerShell that looks legitimate, a command line that looks so legitimate, application that looks so legitimate. So what happens when there's no protection against that? So for Sophos, we have the anti-ransomware, and what the anti-ransomware feature does is a crypto guard feature in it that ensures that at every point in time, it sees to the health state of every document, every file the user works with. And at that point in time, if there's going to be any manipulation at all on that particular document, it is so intelligent enough to know that something is going wrong on this particular file. And what happens? What did the attacker try to do? What did the intruder try to do at all times? They try to encrypt a data, and at the point of encrypting a data, they get a hang on it and they ask for a ransom. At the end of the day, the organization has to pay for it. And really, the thing is, even if ransom is paid for such data, getting back the data is not sure, like it's not even certain. You're not even sure of getting back the data. So why pay for a data when you're not going to get it? So it's just good to stay safe and prevent all of those issues that might arise when it comes to encryption of data. So for unauthorized encryption, sometimes people are working, we surf the internet, we do a lot of things, we download, we are not even careful about the browsing, our browsing state, our browsing health, no safe browsing technique. We just want to download every attachment. We just want to click on every URL. All of those things poses a threat in the organization. And with the CryptoGuard feature in the Intercept X, which is one of the best protection we have so far, it's a feature called the rollback feature. So at this point in time, what happens is when the attacker or the intruder is trying to work on a file to encrypt the file, then the crypto guard kicks in and stop every of those illicit activities. And when those activities are stopped, it regains back the file to the original position. So it simply means at the point of that operation, there's a copy, like a backup already made in place. And the endpoint protection is trying to see what is going to happen with that file, what the intruder was trying to do at that point in time. The executables are going to be written on it. So at the point in time where that is noticed, it kicks in and stop every of those operations. And there you're safe. You're sure that whatever file it is you have is safe, provided you have the antivirus, Sophos antivirus on your computer, the Sophos antivirus, Sophos endpoint solution, you have it installed and is updated, then you're good. You're sure that you're safe. Then for the deep learning features, sometimes we open up Word documents, we open up Excel document that has a bit of macros in it. We have PowerShell with some executables and all of that. We might not know from the end, from our own standpoint, you might not be able to get all of those things. But with Sophos, you can tell that when you're opening up a file, at the start of opening up that file, you are able to see, because the antivirus reads what that file had before, and it's reading to see if there's any new change that has been made to that file. And if there's any change that has been made to that file, then you get an alert, and it alerts the administrator and even the user that this particular file is not legitimate, and probably a PUA was found in it, or probably malicious part was found in it. So all of those things are done because of the deep learning artificial intelligence feature that the Sophos antivirus has. Then for anti-exploit, of course, a lot of time there's a man in the middle attack. There's credential harvesting and a whole lot of exploit that are being done, and a whole lot of things that the intruders want to use to get to the organization. And of course, we know the key thing in every organization is data, and the target is the user. So a popular saying that says there's no technology at all that can combat any form of social engineering. It still has a lot to do with the users. It has a lot to do with the administrators, and it has a lot to do with every one of us that represents every organization we work in. So for the exploit and the fileless attack and all that, for the anti-exploit feature, we're guaranteed that with the Sophos Intercept X, it works seamlessly for that. Then of course, for the foundational, we are not leaving that aside. The known threats, it fights against the known threats. And most importantly, against the unknown threats, the zero-day attacks. What of the guys behind that the intruders are trying to get a whole lot of new things to come into the organization. They want to get a new way of attacking the organization. And of course, there has to be some other guys at the end to say, you know what, we're going to combat this, and this is not going to pose a threat to any organization. And that is why Sophos is here for you to give you the best protection at that. Then for the Intercept text, like we mentioned, the word-based endpoint protection, it protects disk and boot record, and the wipe guard, the system information, the crypto guard. So like I said, the crypto guard for files and all, then the wipe guard for the master boot record and for system information. Then for anti-ransomware and deep learning, it stops unknown threats, it scales effectively and performs efficiently. So imagine the time it takes for an administrator to go through a lot of devices that maybe, of course, there's been an alert on them, a high alert. So what happens? The administrator spends like a whole lot of time trying to remediate. When Sophos can do that under split seconds, all of those remediation are done, more especially when you have your firewall. If some users, of course, are still working from the office, when you have all of those things in place, all of those solutions, within split seconds, the remediation is done, compared to when you have to go there manually and start working through on all devices. It's stressful, it takes a lot of time, and it takes a whole lot of human capital, human resources to get all of those things done. But with Sophos Intercept X Advanced, will guarantee that at every point in time, the solution is strong enough to help to detect, strong enough to help remediate, and also to give a protection layer for your workload and your resources. Okay, so here are the multiple layers of defense that Sophos Intercept X Advanced brings to the table, and we already discussed it. So we're sure that for Sophos Intercept X Advanced, we're guaranteed that it works for anti-ransomware, for ransomware to protect. It also helps for deep learning, with the deep learning feature, artificial intelligence, and as well anti-exploit, and also foundational, which are the known attack. So Intercept X Advanced overview. The fear of, oh, Intercept X Advanced, does it work for just mobile? Does it work for just computers? Does it work for just servers? All of those things are taken care of. It's a solution that cuts across every form of operating system. You can talk of Windows, you can talk of Linux, you can talk of Android, iOS, Chromebook, anything at all, whether it's installed on your desktop, on your server, or on your mobile. We're sure that at every point in time, when you have that solution, you're safe. Then, like we said earlier, human-led threat hunting. So this is where the MTR comes in. MTR is managed threat and response. So what that means is we have the intruders behind that trying to pose a threat to an organization, trying to steal the data in the organization, trying to get the hang on an organization, trying to kill the reputation of an organization. But with the human-led threat hunting team, they work behind to say that, you know what, you guys are the black hat, we are the white hat. We try as much as we can to combat in any way, any form possible. So it's also another level of protection. We have the Intercept X Advanced with XDR. Then if you now want to go a step further to embrace the human-led threat hunting into your organization, then you think of MTR. So the first of the basic Intercept X Advanced, then you move over, you want an extended detection and response system to help with remediation. You don't have to go about your user's computer. You want to be able to run queries on your user's machine. You want to be able to kill processes that are eating up the spaces, that are eating up the CPU use, that are spiking up CPUs on your user's computer. You want to be able to do all of those things, and you're considering XDR. Then you want a form of intelligence guys sitting behind your porter. You want them to be able to monitor at every point in time, and at every slight change and every slight move on your porter, they can easily click in, they can step in, and you know what, send you a notification. Then you as an administrator, you are aware that something is wrong in the organization, or something is wrong with X number of users' computer. Then you can easily do your remediation. So those are the MTR. So that's like another layer. We have the Intercept X Advanced with XDR, then with MTR, to get the level of the human-led threat hunting. So what did they do? They do human-led threat hunting. So they plan to incorporate human-led threat hunts, meaning we have 48% of people dedicated into doing that and ensuring that our environment is safe for the solution we are consuming. So this is going to take us through to the Intercept X Advanced endpoint detection and response system, which is called the XDR. So I'm going to be handing over now to my colleague, Victor, to take us through to the next phase.
talking about the Intercept X advanced and concentrating more on SDR, I'd like to mention that SDR is actually what other we generally refer to as EDR, and I believe we all know what EDR does. It's actually an abbreviation of endpoint protection and response. As we can, to as many of us that be following Sophos, realize that Sophos has actually been going extra mile in churning out different products and always be the best to be able to deliver required technologies and security mechanism. That is why Sophos has actually gone a step further from the typical EDR to what is called SDR today, which is actually called extended detection and response. And basically what this does is ability to actually ensure that the organization, as it were, or the IT security personnel is able to attend to security issues, as at when it is required. Another reason why, another very unique advantage of this particular one is the fact that for the first time, we then have EDR component or solutions that is able to appeal to both security analysts as well as the IT professionals. We are able to carry out threat hunting, leveraging these same technologies. For example, there was a time that we have a particular form of ransomware that is rampaging every organizations or industry. And we are all aware that some of these malwares actually find themselves in different organizations, residing there for longer time, a space of 1 month before it finally strike or cause the havoc. And during all this period of time, the IT personnel or the IT unit, as it were, they were not actually aware, or they won't actually be aware because at that point it's not actually possible. But this threat hunting is able to demystify or even detect any of such code running within an environment before it finally perpetrates the evil and cause. So you're able to actually carry out a lot of threat hunting to actually decide whether or find out or be sure that the environment is actually safe for different kind of malwares it may be. And in addition, which is actually one of the most important, is the fact that several other OEM solutions is able to deliver, EDR as it were. However, when it comes to IT professionals' activities, realize that it is actually very difficult. We have very minimal number of them that is able to deliver that, which we call the IT hygiene. An example of such is that, let's say I actually want to find out how many numbers of systems that I want to know how many number of systems that are running with, let's say, 4 gig RAM today. A lot of organizations does not necessarily have tools that can deliver this to them. Hence, it becomes very difficult for any organizations or such IT industry to them. So with Sophos SDR, okay, I believe my audio is better now. So with SDR, like I was saying, we realized that we're able to actually carry out what we call investigation with a powerful after the box, customizable SQL queries, and query devices, query, systems for, particular attributes or particular component, as the case may be. Not only that, we also realize that this also enable you, and this also enable you to find out questions like, why is my machine or a system is actually running slow? Are there programs running on a particular machine that's supposed not to be there? Which devices are unauthorized, browser extension with unauthorized, browser extensions. I will give an example. That was actually a particular organization some years ago, I think about 2 years ago, that they realized that their user is actually making use of a particular tool called Ultrasoft. I don't know how many of us that are aware of this very tool. It's actually a tool that can be used to bypass any policies and securities that you have on your firewall. So in that case, such users' traffic, will be blind to your firewall, as the case may be. Despite the investment that your organization has made, at the perimeter, and we have configurations that are meant to actually take care of those things, but these two enable users to be able to bypass it. So, and it is difficult for administrators or IT team to be able to even unravel it. They just realize that their network is getting clogged, and a lot of every now and then their IP is being blacklisted, and they're not even aware of what is actually going on within the environment. But with this very tool, you are able to actually IT unit or IT personnel or even security analysts is able to actually connect remotely and find out every of those tools or softwares or processes that are actually running on those different devices. More so, you're able to also respond to them, because like we're saying, it is not actually enough for us to understand or to detect, as the case may be. It is actually very important for us to be able to respond to it, take appropriate step, as at when due. And such could actually be to probably install an application remotely. Imagine now that users are working from home. There is an organizational policy to actually ensure a particular software is installed, across your users' landscape. But right now, they're actually working from home. With this tool, you're able to actually carry out installation, install it remotely on their system without asking or seeking for any remote desktop applications. And at the same time, you can as well uninstall if you realize that there is actually, or there are some applications that are not meant to be there. You can actually uninstall it remotely. And if you also find out that there are processes that are actually running down the system that probably or perhaps making the system, getting slow, you can actually terminate such applications or such processes remotely. And at the same time, you've also realized that there are some devices that need, reboot to be able to work functionally or function optimally. It is actually possible for you to remotely restart such system, even without a physical access to the devices. And finally, you are able to also carry out or run forensic tools, even third-party forensic tools. You are able to actually run it on that same console, and deliver unraveled support for your users, particularly now that they work from home. It is very important for me to also mention that one of the capabilities and use case, here is the fact that when before COVID-19, when everybody now moved to remote work, we only have very minimal number of people working remotely, which in a way IT units find a way to be able to manage them. But right now that we then have more people, over times five of people that were working remotely before are now working from home or working remotely from wherever they are. So it then becomes very difficult for IT team to continue to provide adequate security and protection. Hence, the need for SDR components, to be able to deliver the same support that you'll have been able to provide your users if they're actually working within your organization. An example of such is a user that complained that my system is actually running slow and I'm unable to carry out my activities. In a way, if such user is actually within the premise, it's just for you to probably request that they bring the system, or you send somebody to check out the system. But right now they're working from home. The IS will have done it, probably schedule a time for the user to bring the system to the office. But with this very tool, you're able right there and there, you can actually connect to that system and find out what is going on and remediate and actually take appropriate actions. What if it is in ransomware that is actually perpetrating evils? So if you're able to connect immediately, you're able to arrest such situations immediately before it is escalated. Now, other use cases is Chrome running slowly. For example, perhaps because of some inappropriate extensions that have been installed, or because of multiple or perhaps you have multiple users reporting about a particular patches, on any of those browsers. So you are able to remotely connect to such systems and remove those extensions remotely. Not only that, we also see that sometimes we also have network activities. You actually want to check for signs of attempted breaches. Probably you actually want to find out what is actually going on, or you want to be sure that your environment is safe and secure, or perhaps you even want to look for failed login attempts. Perhaps that there's been some persistence logging or attempt to actually log into your environment. All of these things are things you can actually find out using the SDR component of your Sophos. And lastly, they will also have the remote access device to perform further analysis that you can actually carry out what we call the isolation. You can actually isolate or terminate those processes and ensure or be sure that such devices are actually safe, as it were. They will also have software queries. Perhaps this is IT, hygiene or IT pro activities. Perhaps there is a need for you to actually carry out compliance and licensing usage reports within your premise. I'm aware that there are other tools that can actually carry out this, but you know that it's going to be a dedicated tool that you are going to buy, and they are not actually very cheap. So, but you can leverage this same tool to come up with compliance usage, compliance status and report. License report, for you to actually know how fair you're actually doing, as far as your licensing usage is concerned, or probably check that sensitive files, have been removed from devices. For as many that are currently using Sophos Intercept X Advanced, for instance, you realize that sometimes that there are some detections that Sophos will then require you to probably go to a particular URL and probably find out that file and remove it manually, and then restart system, then carry out scanning. And this actually requires you to go to that device physically and carry out those activities. But this is actually what you're able to do remotely with this very tool. Just for you to connect to that device, you can delete file. You can actually eliminate, and whether it's even an application, you can uninstall or remove it if it is a file, and be sure and carry out or initiate a scan to be sure that those devices are actually fine. And more so, you're also able to carry out, phishing investigations to be sure that perhaps we'll have, to neutralize phishing attack, identify users that click on suspected links, or probably download malicious files on their devices, or probably check if files are interacted with or has interacted with anything else, probably any other files of the organization or official tools or services within the organization. And at the end of the day, you're able to actually isolate such infected devices. All of these things are carried out remotely. Let me also make mention of this, that working from home or remote work, one of the capabilities or one of the shortfall or challenge that we also see is the fact that we realize that at your firewall, at your perimeter level, you must have, have your firewall and other devices to carry out or to be doing your web filtering, application filtering. But right now, those things are things that actually prevent your users, from being able to access websites or sites that are malicious, or run applications that are suspected or that are not clean on their devices. However, now that they are working from home, it is difficult or it is almost impossible for that same technology or solution to provide these same capabilities. And that is another way, and that is where Sophos also comes in. We have capabilities within Sophos, which is called the web control and application control, which is similar to that of the web filtering and application filtering that you have on your firewall, including what we call peripheral control. I was listening to a report, I think sometimes ago, even in different countries, Nigeria, for instance, talking about a flash drive these days that is actually going around, that contains infected ransomware. Such flash drive can actually be placed, on anybody's desk, as it were. And a user that just that saw it. We just pick it up and put it on their system, believing, oh, I have a flash. And before you know, the entire network will be infected. So, which means that there is actually need for us to have, peripheral control policy or management in place. And this very tool, Sophos is actually able to deliver that to you, while you work remotely. Okay, so moving forward, and talking about every of these components that we'll be talking about, how you are able to actually remediate, how you are able to stop, threats in the action, how you are able to actually protect your environment to be sure that you are protected, you are secure, and all of that. However, this is just like, and that is I'm talking about the SDR. It's just like a plane. If you have a jet, for instance, today, that does not mean that you are able to move it forward. You're probably going to need a pilot, to actually then be the one to move you from point A to point B using that same jet, or whichever type of flight that you are using. And that is how Intercept X, the SDR component is. It's just a tool, as it were, that can be used, which means that having that in your environment, you then need to actually train your engineers, train your IT team to be able to adequately and optimally use them effectively. However, we have also seen the reason why, we have also seen scenarios whereby users are not, or organizations are not able to provide adequate training or such training to their IT team, or probably they are unable to even afford people with those skills. So in that case, instead of them having those tools just lying fallow without the usage, we then have what we call the MTR. The MTR is now the component of Sophos that now enable you to actually hire Sophos security experts on your behalf, meaning that it will now be their own responsibility to make use of your SDR tools to carry out adequate security and protections of your environment. Perhaps, and I believe that most of us will agree with me, that most of these infections that takes place or attack always take place probably at the close of business, or weekend, or during public holidays. And you believe that those period of time are time that any IT personnel or the IT unit are also going to probably be on their bed, be at home, and all of that. And that is when they normally strike. So that is one of the advantage of taking the capabilities of MTR, because the Sophos team will then be the one to work on that environment every 24/7. Carrying out what we call the threat hunting, detection and responses. It also delivered by an elite, like is actually Sophos trained, security experts that are full-fledged, IT analysts. So they understand and they have all the prerequisites to be able to carry out, those activities. And you can also control how and when incidents are escalated and what actions to take. An example is that we normally have 3 modes, because it's another question that anybody might want to ask, that, okay, if I then give Sophos, access to my network, that means they have access to carry out anything on my network. Not exactly, because we have 3 modes. There is notification mode, there is authorization mode, and there is also collaboration mode. The notification mode is that mode that then once there is any detection, they continue to do their threat hunting 24/7. But by the time anything is notified, they then notify the IT team. And that means that you have a trained IT team within your environment to be able to carry on, that activity. They will give you recommendations and everything that you need to carry it out. Why the second mode is the collaboration. So when such happens, they notify you and they sync to action with you immediately. Why the last mode is actually authorization. Most organizations doesn't use this mode, and that's that mode that you then say, okay, as far as the security is concerned for this organization is in the hands of Sophos. So in that case, if you can then have 100% guarantee that your environment is safe and secure, because if anything happens, you can definitely have your payback, paid to you. Okay, all what we have been talking about, we see that it actually make use of, what best endpoint protection. You believe with me today, Gartner Quadrant, they have series of reports that actually indicate the expertise and how mature Sophos product is all about, particularly the Intercept X component of Sophos, which actually go extra mile in ensuring your environment safe and secure. And I would like to mention this, that in doing this, they go extra mile. How? They have security mechanism at every level and at every layers. However, there is actually one of the components that my colleague mentioned, which is called the crypto guard. And what that does is that to safeguard your system, as soon as Sophos is fully protected or installed on your system, it actually creates or gets a binary, backup of your file, as it were. And when it does that, should there be any need for or any strike of ransomware, we all are aware today that what ransomware does is to encrypt file. So as soon as encryption is starting, we realize that it's able to actually identify that, oh, this encryption is starting and not by any known application. So it's able to halt it and, revert back and carry out what we call automatic rollback, which is not actually possible with most of the OEM today. So with that, user is not even aware. It's only you, the administrator, that can actually receive the notification that your environment will have been compromised. You were hit by this form of ransomware. However, you have been secured and safe. So moving forward, to also mention that when we come to protection and security, especially in this very new era, in this very age of remote work, mobile is actually very important. A lot of organizations made a lot of investments at their perimeter, even in protecting their workstations. However, they left out the mobile. So I would like to tell you that it is not actually appropriate, because you realize that today there is no organizations that can go against BYOD, restricting their users from probably working from their mobile devices and all of that. Otherwise, we are going to be making such users to be underproductive. So in that case, they allow, or if I throw that question to all of us today, almost every one of us here today, you believe with me that you allow your users to use their mobile devices to attend to official works. But that actually comes with great dangers, because you are not in control, and you are not able to determine or detect or even validate the state of those devices that are accessing your official or corporate infrastructure. At the end of the day, malware can actually come in through there, and what you then see happening is that the entire network is being crumbled. So that is why there is need to pay more attention to mobile devices. And with that, you're able to actually stop threats, on those various mobile devices, Android to iOS, even Windows and all of that, and secure data that reside on those devices. Another question that anybody might want to ask is that, okay, what of in a situation whereby devices are not actually procured by the organization to the users? So how will organization be able to manage them? So it is important to know that with Sophos, we then have containerization that enable you to actually have a container that is going to be managing official and corporate resources on those devices. And that is only what the organization is going to be managing. So users continue to have their access and their control over the device. However, when it comes to Outlook, when it comes to WordFile, when it comes to every of those resources that has to do with the organization, it's actually residing in a secure and segregated environment. In a situation whereby there is a theft, of those devices, or the user is even leaving the organization, you can do device wipe, or just wipe only the container, and user continue to, user continue to do his work. So with this, we then have what we call the, it protect your data and workload, secure the network, which is very important. To protect your data and workload, you're going to be leveraging what we call the Sophos Intercept X for servers. We also have Sophos Cloud Optics, and securing your network, we have the Sophos firewall, and your mobile devices is the one I mentioned earlier, which is the Sophos Mobile. to protect that. And that is why I believe it must have been announced earlier that some of you that pay closer attention or that qualify for it, you are going to be going home today with licenses to protect your device, which is Sophos Home Premium, that worth hundreds of dollars, and that of mobile devices in a short while. So it protects data and workload, and just like we see on the screen. So moving forward, because of our time, we realize that this is Sophos Cloud Optics, and what this does is that it's able to provide adequate feasibilities. It gives organizations adequate feasibilities into their work, into their cloud infrastructures and security postures. What I mean by this is that, for instance, a lot of organizations today, they have their infrastructures on Azure, on AWS, or Google's cloud. And it is because it is actually far away from them, a lot of time, it is difficult to even be able to understand what is going on within that network. But this tool is able to give feasibilities whereby you can actually know how traffic comes in and how traffic goes out of that very network. It also comes with tools or capabilities to give you recommendations, and security glitches, or misconfigurations that exist within your infrastructure, so that it gives you those, and it gives you those with appropriate step to remediate or to actually overcome them. That actually go a long way to provide organizations best security before they become victim of any of such attack. So unified cybersecurity platforms, just to mention that when we talk about this, Sophos actually got to cover security and protection at every layers, starting from the firewall to the ZTNA, to the endpoint protection, to your server protection, to your mobile device, management and security, to cloud optics, coming back to your, hardware such as firewall, the RED, the MTR, and all of that we have mentioned. Okay, so this is it. When it comes to, so you can imagine managing all of this from a single console. You don't actually have to train your personnel, on different products. A single training for them, give them knowledge and prerequisites to be able to manage every of these solutions on their network. Another fantastic thing is the synergy between every of those products. Every of those products are actually in sync, and you are able to correlate data from one of those components or product to another. For instance, from your firewall to your endpoint, from endpoint to your email protection, and all of that. So these are just an example of what we call the security heartbeat, synchronized security. The synchronized security is actually a solution that enables your endpoint today to talk to your or share intelligence with your perimeter devices, such as your firewall. And what this does is that it actually gives you additional layers of security and protection. Imagine in an organization whereby we have the security at the main entrance, the main gate, and we also have different offices, within the compound. And we have security at each of those, offices. And the security at the main gate is able to actually communicate with the security at each of those offices. You can see the fantastic synergy that is actually, going on, or that can actually take place between them. So in that case, the security at the gate can actually say, oh, I made a detection of a particular armed robber, or intruder, and describe it to the endpoint or to the user, to the security at each of those offices. With that, it is easily trackable, not the same knowledge and experience that the security at the gate carried out is the same thing that we have to go through all over again. That actually creates a lot of lag, as it were. Okay. So this actually enables, malware detection, cross-estate communications, device isolation, cleanup, and at the end of the day, restore access. So meaning that if malware is actually detected, we can actually automatically carry out what we call device isolation to prevent lateral movement. Okay. going through this process, we realize that activities that are supposed to take about 3.3 hours will actually take about 8 seconds to fix. That is a big in your return on investment. And as far as the management is concerned, when you put this kind of infrastructure in place, you have helped them to save a lot of manpower. And that is why we always have the slogan to say that Intercept X and with SDR is to, we help you not to add end count, but rather you add expertise. So meaning that with all of this, you're actually slashing down your admin workload by half, as it were, whereby your IT resources are now able to concentrate more on productive activities than them, going on and on in troubleshooting and even trying to find out what is going on within the environment, or until even trouble the entire network. About 85% reductions in security incidences. So you can see that is actually very massive because of some automated, shared intelligence and automated responses that is available within the solution. So to summarize all of this, so securing the anywhere organization with Sophos then require those 4 cadres that we talk about at the beginning, which is secure communications. You need secure communications from anywhere. You then need to actually have secure devices, provide secure devices to your users, and also have secure data and your workload, and finally have a centralized management console by leveraging the solutions or product that we have here. When it comes to the connectivity, we have the firewall, the VPN, and RED, and we have the ZTNA. It is very important for us to know that the usual or traditional VPN is no longer sufficing our remote work capabilities or requirements. Otherwise, we might actually, while we are trying to make our users be more productive, we're actually opening up another gate for hackers to come in. And when it comes to devices, we have the Sophos Intercept X, advanced or with SDR. Then we also have the MTR dimension, and we have the Sophos Mobile. Then when it comes to secure the data on those devices, we have the Sophos Intercept X for servers. We have the cloud optics, and we also have the Sophos firewall. And lastly, we have the Sophos Central that is providing that adequate protection and security. So while I round up, I just want to show you a portal. Just in 1 second now, I want to show you for you to actually see part of the product or solution that Sophos is providing when it comes to email protection. So I believe that you can see my screen. This is actually a live environment that was deployed about a week ago or thereabouts, for a particular organization. And you can see this is for email protection, which is called Sophos Email Gateway. So we're able to actually see that about 73 potential threats has been identified. These are things that will have actually caused havoc into the organization. So, and again, you can see how many mailboxes that are protected. You see how many mailboxes that has been scanned. How many emails that have been scanned, for inbound and outbound. So we have the summary here, and we can easily go to logs and report here to actually see, okay, what are these emails? We can see all of them. What is their status? It is inbound, we can see all of them, and we can click on any one of them to actually find out what is going on. We have the quarantine here that you can actually use to see emails that have been quarantined. And it also comes with a lot of policy that very granular to provide additional level of protection and security for organizations. Let me just show you a little of it. You can see your DMARC, your SPF, your DKIM, and other anonymous email that appears to, this is actually very important for organizations, because you realize that recently we have, series of users or customers reporting that they receive email from themselves. or perhaps receiving emails from another users in the organization, and it's not actually emanating from that organization. So and you can imagine that any user can fall victim of such because he believes it's my colleague that sent it. And before you know, the entire network will have been crumbled. So, but this can actually dictate because such email did not actually originated from the organization, as it were. So thank you very much. I think this is where we will draw the curtain today, while I hand over to Gift.
All right, thank you so much, Victor. Thank you for that amazing presentation. So right now, we'll be taking your questions. Please provide those questions in the chat window, and we'll be attending to them verbally right now. Okay, so we have a question here. Please, are we likely to have the recorded training session being sent to our mail? So yes, you will get that. All you have to do is forward an email to us requesting for the recorded session, and we will send that to you. You can also provide your email address in the chat window, and of course, we'll provide a response. So like I said earlier, we will be awarding free Sophos licenses to 6 qualified participants. So right now, the question poll has been provided in the chat window. So kindly endeavor to click on it rather, fill out the questions and submit. And we'll be reaching out to all winners via email address. So before we wrap up the session, here is a quick important message from Reliance Infosystems. So without any other question, I believe we've come to the end of this webinar session. So I'd like to thank everyone that made out time to be a part of this transformative experience. Thank you so much for joining in today. We appreciate your time. Now, please note that you'll be receiving a feedback form from us at the end of this session. So please kindly endeavor to fill it out and submit because we'd like to get your feedback about this session. That will help us serve you better. For further inquiries, you can reach out to us across our social media channels, on our website, or our email address currently displayed on the screen. Once again, thank you so much for joining in today. We'll be providing the recordings to everyone that has provided their email address requesting for the video.